At first, I want to thank Brother Gordon. An extraordinarily profound image that you painted. It's incredibly image that you painted of James Boggs. I was sitting listening to Julia talk, the question of education, and I found myself getting emotional, as many in the audience were emotional about your comments. Because we go to sleep, we wake up in the morning, we go to bed at night, we go through the day and say, what can I do and how can I do that is effective and better for the children? And see them and see their faces and see the wonderment and imagine that there's some magic in our voice that would say, somebody say, these children matter, their lives matter, the way they are matter. I remember in the 3rd grade, Miss Lumber was my teacher in the 3rd grade. I never knew her first name, it was always Miss Lumber. And she had come from Beaumont, Texas, and I was living in the housing projects in San Francisco, and all of us were project kids. And she said something, I'm talking about I was in the 3rd grade, I was 1955. I was born in 1946. And she said something that had stuck in my mind at that moment. Now, she had to come, in order to teach in San Francisco in the public school district, she had to be reaccredited, but she came to a small college. She said, I'm not simply interested in making good students, I'm interested in making good citizens. She put up 1955, and we know what all was happening in 1955. You know what always happened in 1954. And those key moments were key moments in my own life. So I was able to kind of watch my parents, who were young parents, committed to ideas in the sense in being involved in their union as postal employees. My mother had been trained as a teacher and graduated from Payne College in Augusta, Georgia in 1942. My dad had come from the Midwest, Kansas City, and they both met in New York. But the idea of citizenship, as I watched, not only watched the images on television, with the television, there was different kind of images in 1955, where you saw men and women transforming themselves right in front of your eyes, right there in the moment, and standing up in something incredible. So I watched that, all that came in through me, and then vicariously it came through how my mother and father celebrated those particular moments. And those moments were really crystal in my mind. So, of course, my first heroes were people, when SNCC was formed, and my first heroes were those people who were part of Student Nonviolent Coordinating. They were a little bit older than me, but they were the ones that I resonated to at those particular moments. In fact, I knew all their names. I knew Diane Nash was, I knew who Stokely was, I knew all those names at that particular time. So it's a translation for something. I'm privileged in the sense that I don't have to get up at 9 to 5 every day and shape a lot of my ideas around the culture of the workplace that I go in. You know, somebody says they don't like what I say, they just don't hire me for a particular film. And that has happened. It seems they don't like what I do, but I'm privileged in a sense, in a way. But it's just trying to find the connections between all that. I mean, I've been on the board of at the Algebra Project for almost 15 years now. Just try to understand the role that math played essential in my growth, because I had difficulty reading as a child. You know, difficulty reading, some sort of process of dyslexia, whatever the circumstances are, and everything. But I had that as an anchor. Math is an anchor, and I've watched one of the most incredible people I've ever met, Bob Moses, in a sense, work through an image. And at 80-something years old now, he sits down as if he's deliberating, as if he's 25 years old. You know, and he's in 1960, not 2000, and those are the kind of things. So I think, and the answer is in a simple way, and not direct, because there are other things, you know. because it's watching how communities, being around Grace Lee Boggs and the community, the Boggs Centers, watching how people organize themselves and do the most incredible, heroic things in putting together another agenda, another narrative around their story. And I think when you sit back, whether you see that here in Detroit, or whether you see that in San Francisco, where I'm born and raised, and where I went to the first Western Addition Community Organization meetings, Waco, who trying to turn back redevelopment when I was like 20. So all those particular things, there's a narrative to that and a process to that. And to be able to sometimes get a choice to do a film like some of the films that I've done, like The Last Black Man in San Francisco, or the film to do a film like Sorry to Bother You, then you say, okay, you're right, what makes this do? And to try to do the other projects that I've done, been able to do it, and have tried to do. All those are things that feed me in. But the center of gravity is always to listen to the stories, to hear the stories, and find the connected points between the stories. Yes, there are people who respond to. Paul Robeson also said that each generation makes its own history and is judged by the history it makes. And the idea is that artists are the gatekeepers of truth. Those are kind of truth statements that run through my mind and say, but beyond that, it's what ordinary citizens do. When I worked in the Model Cities program in the Office of Community Development for 6.5 years in the early 70s, it did all those particular things where the sense of sitting down and watching people define. They don't have the ideological undercurrents and everything they discuss, but they know that their struggle is about equity, is about inclusiveness, is about making it a better system, better democracy. So those are the things that have guided me in the way, in different ways, and continue to guide me. So I'm only an actor because I'm involved. I'm really only an actor because I'm involved in the African Liberation Support Committee. And then that's how I'm an actor, because I learned something about apartheid. I learned something more about apartheid, but I had a vehicle too. I had a writer who wrote for me and who in some sense internalized his work, internalized my own images and my own possibilities and everything. And that translates into something else. And you say, well, I'm doing something of value there as an artist. As an artist, I'm doing something of value. So all those things merge in a sense. I'm 3 weeks, 73-year-old man who still comes out here and still when it's silly. Whether it's campaigning for someone I'm proud to be campaigning for, or whether it's being involved in a discourse about how this new education legislation in Congress right now it can be changed in different ways, to ideas that I get around the idea around Bob Moses' brilliant ideas about education, math literacy, and 21st century citizenship, connecting citizenship to math literacy, as in 20th century connecting the right to vote to citizenship. And those kind of ideas feed me in the sense, and think about it and reference on it, and then be in some place to make an argument for that. So to be around those kind of discussions now, I think, have revitalized a number of us, whether we're talking about everything. I talked about the intersectionality and the connection between where do we go from here, community of chaos, and what we have to do, and the tasks that we have to do in our own time, but also the tasks that we have to prepare our children to do as well.